Hi, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and today we'll be taking a look at the Ionz KZV Mark II Mesh, or KZV M2, or KZV Black Aether Mesh. It goes by various names, but something which it does have is a lot of flexibility. So in today's video, I'm going to go through, do a little bit of a product tour so you can see what it's all about, and potentially it might be suitable for your next build. This case actually works for EATX and ATX motherboards. You can, of course, if you want to, put in a micro ATX or a mini ATX, but they just look daft, so please don't. But this actually comes in at a pretty decent price here in the UK from our good friends over at PCGamingcases.co.uk, or alternatively from the links on Amazon, all of which will be in the video description below. It comes in a few different flavors or varieties, so there's a black version, a white version, and you can have it either with the choice of the 3 included fans and an RGB controller with a remote control, or you can have it just the case itself with no fans. So the choice is yours. Obviously, if you go with the version that doesn't include the fans and the controller, it is considerably cheaper. And by doing so, you can save a few pennies. So you're looking at somewhere around about the £50 mark as the bare case, and somewhere closer to about 65 with the fans and the controller, which I think for 3 fans and a controller, 15 quid, not bad at all. So you can see the case all lit up at the moment. We've got the power supply in the back there, just controlling the light, so you can see how it all works. You can control it all from the remote control. Unfortunately, the built-in addressable RGB controller is somewhat of a custom version. So the fans are like 6-pin versions which plug in. You can plug in more if you can find them. So potentially for some people, you may want to go with your own controller or your own fans, in which case, obviously the fanless version is probably the way to go. Overall, the fans themselves, they're not overly great. They do move some air, not a particular huge amount. You've got 2 140s up front, and you've got a single 120 in the rear. So again, it will move a little bit of air. There's plenty of filtration pretty much everywhere on this case, so you've got no worries there. And actually there's some neat little touches for the ventilation in how you remove them, etc. So yes, all pretty good. If you're considering this and you're thinking, well, I want to use some form of larger air cooler, you can fit in CPU tower coolers up to 175 millimeters. When it comes to graphics card length, if you're not installing a radiator behind the mesh, then you're looking at around about 400 millimeters. Obviously, if you encroach into that space with a radiator and other fans on the inside, then you will have to lower that a little bit more. When it comes to power supplies, ATX is supported, so no issues there. Of course, if you want to use a smaller SFX one, you can do should you need to. Other cool features of this, you've actually got the option for a vertical GPU mount. Now, don't get carried away. It's not going to come with a cable to actually attach to your GPU, but it does come with hardware which is rotatable, which you're probably seeing already from some B-roll. If not, we'll show you a little bit later on. So that's a pretty neat touch. For a case which costs, with fans, around about £65, you've got a ton of flexibility here. So when it comes to fan and radiator support in the front, we've got the option for up to a 420mm radiator. So 3 140mm fans or 3 120mm fans. Also in the top, we've got the option for a 360mm radiator, 3 120mm fans or 2 140s. In the back, there is a space for a single 120mm fan, and also on the basement section on the mesh, there is room for an additional 2 120mm fans should you wish to. The full dimensions of this case are 415mm in length, 225mm in width, and we're looking at 470mm in height. Included accessories in the box when you get this out. So again, if you have the version with the fans and the controller, you're going to get the remote control with an included CR2032 battery. There's also a very brief pamphlet showing you how the case goes together and various fitment options, and you get a bag of screws, and there's also 2 pillars in there for GPU mounting should you go for the vertical mount to help you put those cables in the right places. So that was a slightly lengthy intro. Let's go through this case and see what it's all about. So the first thing on the front, this mesh panel, magnetic. So there's a little indentation here, so you can just pull that off and it comes off, secured on magnets. Very nice and easy to clean, look after. Behind that, you can then see the mesh mounting as well. So we've got that kind of nylon mesh, very good for airflow. And this is easily removable. So when the front panel is on, which actually does take a little bit of yeah, there you go. It does take a little bit of maneuvering to get it in because of this somewhat unique section at the bottom there. A little bit of design ethic going on there, but actually does make it harder to put on. But anyway, so to pull out the filter, little handle here, pull that out and you can remove your filter for cleaning purposes. Maybe if you want to wash it under the sink, whatever, then you certainly can do. Let it dry obviously before you put it back in. Or potentially if you just want more airflow, leave it out. And it just leaves a little bit of a gap there, which doesn't look too bad at all in my opinion. So with that removed, we can now see the two included Ionz fans. So these are 140mm. Not entirely sure of the actual speed of these. When they're cranked up to full speed, they're not particularly noisy and they don't move an absolute ton of air. They're okay. I wouldn't put any kind of high-end components in there really if you're looking for airflow. But of course, obviously, if you put your own fans in, then it's going to be very good for airflow indeed, depending obviously on the fans you put in there. So plenty of access to that there, no problems at all. Spinning round to the side, so we can see the first of the two flip out doors. So we've got flip out doors, a little bit of fabric here. So pull that open, it is on magnets and they're quite strong. So this flips out and you can spin that right the way round. The tempered glass side panels can be lifted off, and actually the pillars are pretty good. They've actually done it so the top pillar is actually a little bit longer than the bottom one, so making it easier to put back on. So let's demonstrate that now. So if you get the top one lined up, and then the bottom one you can do after, works very well. A little bit of a swing to let it lower, and there we go. Absolutely great. The glass itself on the black version of the case has got a very, very slight smoke tint to it. So now with the side removed, we can see inside a little bit more. Again, lots of room in here, plenty of cable management, loads of ventilation, lots of mesh and all that kind of good stuff. So very good to see. Also a little bit of extra height clearance at the top there for radiators if you're going to put one on the top. Something which I actually quite like, which is a very cool and actually quite handy thing, is this door on the side. So this is a magnetic door. Locks into place there. So this is actually pretty decent, partly because it covers up the PSU, which is actually quite a good idea. But you've also got access to drives. So you've got two sleds here. So these sleds can be used for 3.5-inch drives. Potentially you could put 2.5s in there as well, should you wish to. And you get two of those slides included. So we should quickly touch on drives. So you can actually put quite a lot in here. So you can put up to 6 2.5-inch drives, or 4 2.5-inch drives and 2 3.5s. So you've got a further 2 mounting sections here and here. So one drive there, one drive there. And also there's the ability to put 2 in the back as well. So up to 6 drives in here, which I think is more than enough for a modern system, especially with the inclusion now of M.2 drives on motherboards. This is going to offer a ton of storage. So moving up from the drive bays, you can see you've got this rather large section here with more ventilation. There's also screw holes as well, so if you want to mount some fans on there to pull some cool air from the bottom upwards into the chassis, you can do. Also, you've got a little bit of an indentation here, so if you're putting a radiator in here, lots of room to put that air and possibly put some fans on there as well. Maybe some sort of crazy push-pull configuration, should you wish to. Pass-throughs at the bottom for cables, for front I/O, that kind of stuff. Also, you can see here, there is a cable cover, cable shroud. This is actually adjustable, so you can move it forward or back slightly. And also, it does come with these supports for GPUs. There's actually 2 on there. I'm not entirely sure why there's 2, but you can move them up and down, so they're on thumb screws, so you can adjust those however you see fit. Big cutout here for where your CPU cooler is going to go, if you need to gain access to the back, all that kind of stuff. And also at the top there, got some more rubber grommets there covering up the pass-throughs if you're going to put some radiators or fans in the top, nice and easy for cable management. So pretty good so far. Looking at the back, we've got the option for ATX power supplies or SFX if you want to. Option for installing either face up or face down, ventilated on both sides, so whichever you want to do is entirely up to you. Moving up, we've got the PCI Express section here, so 7 removable brackets there, or blanking plates. And also the very cool feature, which you'll probably see for some B-roll, is the fact you can undo these 4 screws here, and this whole section comes out and can be rotated 90 degrees, giving you the option for vertical GPU mounting. Moving up from there, we've got a little bit of adjustment for the 120mm fan, a little bit of height adjustment, I/O shield cover here. So actually slight recess to it as well, which is nice. And there's a little bit of extra ventilation at the top there, and also that extra bit of height. So again, if you're putting fans or radiators in there, you're still going to get some pretty decent clearance for your motherboard. Something else while we're in this section, this is one of the slight downsides, although it's a good thing, but it's also a little bit of a pain in the backside. You do have a full-length removable mesh filter, which pulls out from the bottom there, but it does pull out from the back. It would have been much nicer to be able to pull this out from the front, but unfortunately that section's blocked. So yeah, it is what it is. But again, nice nylon mesh, none of that crazy weird metal stuff which you get on some cases, especially some of the cheaper ones. And also pretty easy to put back in as well. Happy days. So let's move around to the second of the tempered glass side panels. So we've got another panel, basically exactly the same as the other one. Again, hinged, and you've got a nice easy way of getting it on or off. And this then reveals what is going on in the back here. And we've got a lot of cable covers. So the cable covers, as you're probably going to see for some B-roll, and we'll probably go through it shortly as well, these just basically cover up all the mess. Now, it's great because it hides it, and obviously there's a piece of glass there. If for some reason you want to do a little bit more simplistic cable management, you don't want all these panels in the way, you can just remove these panels, and then you could always get some sort of Fablon or sticky back plastic or even spray paint and spray the back side of the glass any colour you want. Ideally, obviously black, I would say would probably be your best bet. And that way you can avoid all this should you want to. You've also got an option here for two 2.5 inch drives on these little removable sleds. Always nice to see that sort of thing. Also, as per the other side, we've got the gold wing door, which flips out. So again, this is going to give you access to the back side of your drives and also to your power supply basement area, all of which done really nicely. And also you've got some foam mounts on the bottom there, so to isolate your power supply from the chassis to avoid vibrations. So taking a look in the back, now we've got the covers removed, so you can see you've got the rubber grommets here, nice and easy to pass through your EPS cables, that kind of stuff. And also it's all pre-wired quite nicely. Got some cable management channels there with Velcro wraps as well, which is always a nice thing to see. And we've got our front I/O section, which has all been routed down. There is the fan controller or fan hub. Again, this sadly is on those 6-pin kind of custom connections, which is actually a shame. I'd like to have seen this being a standard 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB and PWM, but sadly it isn't, so it kind of is what it is. If you don't like this, then obviously you can just get the fanless version and do whatever you want to back here. Cable management, again, very good. Got a little bit of ventilation going through there to let a little bit from the inside go through. I'm not too sure why that's there. Maybe to get a little bit of air towards the drives. You've got them mounted on the other side. But yeah, overall pretty decent layout. The controller for the fans is actually SATA powered, which is always preferable. And also there is a pass-through connection, which is for your addressable RGB. So if you want to synchronize it to your motherboard and have your motherboard RGB, then you can do that. You can still control the fans with the remote control, but have separate control for the addressable RGB, so that's pretty handy. And they've actually pre-wired it as well. So there's also an LED button on the top of the case with the front I/O to cycle through the various color options in the controller if you don't want to use your motherboard control or you don't want to use the remote control, or maybe if you lose it. So when it comes to the front panel I/O, we've got a USB 3.0, just a single cable on there because there's only one USB 3.0 port, unfortunately. You've got your front panel I/O, reset switch, hard drive LED, power LED, etc. You've also got HD audio connection, and also there is a standard USB 2 connection, which delivers 2 ports. And talking of those ports, let's take a closer look at the top section. So we've got a removable magnetic filter, as you'd expect on most cases these days. Again, 3 120mm fans at the top here, or 2 140s, radiators up to 360, 280, 240, etc. You've got your buttons here, nice clicky power button, hard drive LED activity, power LED. You've also got a reset button there as well. That single solitary lonely USB 3.0. Then you've got 2 USB 2.0s. In between that, a dedicated headset and a microphone jack. Nice to see those separated. And at the very end there, you've got the RGB button for changing the LED profiles. So taking a look at the bottom of the case, you can see we've got that full length filter, which covers up this nice mesh. And also the drive caddy, I should have mentioned this earlier, is actually adjustable, so you can slide it forward. So if you're planning on putting a radiator in here with either 3 120mm fans or the 420s, then you can move the drive cage further back to allow that access. If you're not going to be using radiators, then you can move that cage forward, giving you a little bit more room for your power supply. So there we go, that is a product tour of the Ionz KZV Mark II, or M2, or Black Aether Mesh. So many names, it's all the same case. But yeah, overall I think I'm pretty impressed with it. Price-wise, I think it's pretty much bang on where it should be. Having things like the option for vertical GPU mount, loads of configuration options for the fans, a decent sized case and actually pretty sturdy, pretty robust. I don't think you can go too far wrong. The only thing I would potentially like to see is better fans included as standard, and again, going back to that hub, I would have loved for that to have been a standard addressable RGB, the normal 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB and PWM. I think that would have added a lot more value to the case, but overall I think it's actually cracking. I did like the KZV originally, and I think one of the things I said then because that version actually had a glass panel on the front, I said it's a nice case, but airflow is going to be somewhat challenging. Now don't get me wrong, it's still going to be somewhat challenging because you've got mesh, then mesh behind as well, and you haven't got the strongest fans in the world. But I think for a majority of people, this is going to be absolutely fine. And the fact that you can put up to 6 hard drives in here, plus what you've actually got on your motherboard as well, means that potentially you could have this as some sort of NAS box or some sort of file storage rig, or if you want to, just a simple gaming rig with tons of flashing RGB. The choice ultimately is going to be down to you. So let me know what you think about this one in the comments section below. Do you approve of the improvements over the previous version, the KZV? Is there anything else you'd like to have seen? I think maybe a full-length mesh might have been preferable personally, but again, it is what it is, and as with Ionz, as they always do, there's bound to be something very cool and very new coming out very shortly. But if you want to find out if there is going to be, you're going to need to stay subscribed to the channel. So hit the subscribe button and the chime notification, that way you'll be notified of future video releases. I think that's going to wrap this one up. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.